God, my voice is fading. I didn't talk during AP first hour because they were taking a quiz. I didn't realize my voice was as bad as it is. All right. So we talked yesterday. We had those cards with the critters on them, right?
Yes.
And those cards we could flip one way or the other. I call those conversion factors. Okay. So when you're converting from one unit to another, you have conversion factors. So if you wanted to convert from inches to feet, there would be a conversion factor, which is 12 inches equals 1 foot. Okay. If you wanted to go the opposite direction and go feet into inches, you could do that as well. You just have to flip that conversion factor upside down. Okay. And that's essentially what we're going to be talking about. So we can do that. Yesterday we were doing it just one critter. Okay. We could do it like how many critters cross this path per hour and then change that into a different critter and per second. Okay. So we can attack it on two different fronts if we want to. We don't start out that way. I'll get to a couple of those problems later today, but just to give you kind of an idea of how we set these up. All right. So like I said, a conversion factor is simply just two sets of values that are equal to one another. And I did that again. I'm just trying to grab this and move it out of the way, and I end up flipping over to the video editing thing. Okay. So the idea is that the numerator and denominator have to measure the same amount. So anything that's top or bottom, except for what you started with, anything that's top or bottom has to equal each other, except your starting amount, okay, which could be like miles per hour or, okay. So these things, these conversion factors have to equal each other, and you can flip them upside down to get them to convert into what you want to and cancel out the other stuff. Okay. Since the two links in the conversion factor are equal to each other, just with different units, you can think of the conversion factor as 1. That doesn't really look like a 1. If we multiply by 1, the length won't change, just the units will. So you're using the length in this example. Okay. Once we know how to create these conversion factors, then we can start using them. And the idea is that the units have to cancel so that you're left with what you're trying to solve for. Okay. So for example here, if we were looking at conversion factors, our conversion factors here, 1 gallon equals 4 quarts, or 4 quarts equal 1 gallon. Make sense? So see if you can do that for the next two here.
Check on Marie's status.
All right. So hopefully you have those done. We got 2 pints and 1 quart. So you should have 2 pints here and 1 quart and 1 quart and 2 pints. Make sense? Or you could have written, these two could be flip-flop, 2 cups and 1 pint, or 1 pint and 2 cups. Good enough for the conversion factors? Making sense? Easy to follow? All right. So we are going to, if we're asked how many cups there are in 3 gallons, to solve this, we're going to write what we know on the left with units. If you have 1 unit only, place that in the numerator And you can just use 1 as a placeholder in the denominator if you want. Otherwise, you can leave it blank, which is what we were doing yesterday with the critter cards. Okay? If you have 2 units to convert, like miles per hour, you're going to place the miles in the numerator and the hours in the denominator. And then you're going to write the conversion factor so that the units will cancel out diagonally. Right? Multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and then divide so that you end up with the correct answers. And you guys were starting to catch on to that yesterday. Okay? So here, we're starting out. We have 55 meters. Okay, and I'm going to set up my grid here. What's wrong?
I'm just looking forward to turning my corrections.
Oh, I don't do corrections on the lab, so you have to do those ahead of time.
Oh,
So you don't get points back for those. We front load those. Where are my notes on this? I'm not seeing this stuff here. There it is. It's under another pile. Okay. Trying to see. I think I gave you guys. This came with a set of conversions. So that previous slide or the previous part in your notebook had some values on it. Okay. Apparently I didn't copy that over into my slideshow, but you should have a table here that has conversion factors in it. Everybody find that? All right. So we're trying to go into from meters into feet. So I'm going to try to find something here that'll take me meters into feet. I don't have anything that goes between meters and feet, but I do have something that goes between centimeters and inches, and then I can go inches into feet. Okay, does that make sense? So my path is going to be meters to centimeters, and then centimeters into inches, and then inches into feet. So that kind of tells you my path. Okay, there's other ways to approach it too. You could go meters into kilometers, then kilometers into miles, and then miles into feet. So there's different ways to do it. Okay, and you should get about the same answer. All right, I don't have written down on my chart meters and centimeters. So I need to develop a conversion factor between centimeters and meters. Okay, so I need to get a conversion factor between these two things. So if I do 1 meter, how many centimeters are in a meter? King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. Where are meters at on here?
They are in the F, right? Oh, I take it back. They're U.
They're the U. Yep, this is my meter here. Okay, if I have 1 of these, then how many centimeters would that be? Huh? 100, right. We would move our We move our decimal point 2 spots and fill in the loops. Okay, so we can create a conversion unit from this. Even though it's not on the paper, we've got it here. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now we've got to figure out where these go into our chart. Okay, now listen to me. When you do this, put down your units first and then go and put your numbers in place. Okay? For some reason, your brain, if you try to put them in at the same time, it doesn't work as well. So do it the way I'm telling you to. Okay? I want to get rid of meters. So they're going to go on the opposite side. So they'll cancel out. And I'm going to go into centimeters. Notice that I put my units down first. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put my numbers in. These are my numbers then. 1 and 100. Does this make sense in your brain that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters?
Yes.
Yeah. 100 centimeters, 1 meter. Good. All right. Then I want to get rid of centimeters. And according to my pathway down here, I'm going to take those centimeters into inches. So where are centimeters going to get placed here? If I want to get rid of them, the bottom. So I'm going to put centimeters here and inches here. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill in my numbers. And according to the chart in your thing, this is 1 and this is 2.54. According to my path, the next thing that I'm going to go into is feet. Where do inches go? Top or bottom? Bottom. And I'm going to go into feet. In 1 inch, in 1 foot, there's 12 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to cancel my units out to make sure that I have this set up right. And I'm ending with the right units. So that's going to be feet as my ending. And then I'm going to multiply across. Okay. So in my calculator, I'm going to put in 55 times 100. Now, you can, at this point, hit your divide key. But if you're going to multiply all of this stuff together within your calculator, after you hit that divide key, you have to hit the parentheses key so that you can keep everything in the bottom together multiplying. So I went 55 times 100 times 1 times 1. You don't need to put that in your calculator. Then I hit the divide key. I hit my begin parentheses, and I'm going to put in 2.54 times 12 in my parentheses, and I should end up with 180.446192. How many sig figs should be in my answer? How many are in my measured amount? 2. Okay. So my answer should be, this is what that's what my calculator kicked back to me. I need 2 sig figs. How do I write this as 2 sig figs? Yes, 180, no decimal. I put a decimal there. Now I have 3 sig figs. Does that work for you guys? All right, questions on this problem? Ready to move on to the next one? Anybody not?
So do we fill out the no and the goal?
What?
There's a box that says no and then a box that says goal.
Oh, known was 55 feet and your goal was to get, or 55 meters, your goal was to get to feet. Okay, so the next one, we know 4.5 feet, and our goal is to get into what unit? Centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to kind of, in my mind, and you can do this along this line if you want. Otherwise, you can kind of give yourself a path if you'd like. It's completely up to where you're at comfort level wise. But I'm going to go feet into what?
2 inches.
Yep. I'm going to go feet into inches. And then I'm going to go inches into centimeters. So that is my path. And now I'm going to make that happen with my conversion factors. I want to get rid of feet. So where are feet going? Top or bottom line? Bottom line. And we said that we're going to take those into inches and then go back in and fill in your numbers. Okay. In 1 foot, I have 12 inches. I want to get rid of inches now.
So then you turn centimeters, so it'd be 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters.
Where do they go though?
The 1 inch goes on the bottom.
Okay.
2.54 centimeters goes on top.
Okay, so 1 and 2.54. I'm going to make sure that my units are going to cancel here. And that's going to leave me with the right amount. And all I have to do is multiply across the top because everything in the bottom is ones. And what do we get for our calculator? So all I have is sig fig answer down here. So 4.5, 12, 2.54. Delete equals. I got one. This is what my calculator kicked back to me for my answer. How many sig figs do I need in my answer?
2.
2. What do I do with this to get 2 sig figs?
So you could round up, so it'd be 140.
140 without a decimal. Right.
Is it always 2 sig figs? Or
Nope.
is it because
You
of-
got to look at your measured amount. It just happened that these 2 problems were 2 sig figs. The next problem is actually 1 sig fig because it's 2 pounds, but these are counting. This is money, so that doesn't really fall underneath that. Trying to see here. Yeah, there's some homework problems. Number 2 in the homework tonight, there's 3 sig figs there. Number 4, there's 3 sig figs. Number 6, there's 3. 7, there's 3. So it just varies. You got to look and see what the measured amount was. All right. Everybody cool with number 2? We'll move on. Okay. So number 3 then, we are going to be looking at money. Money, money, money. So this is kind of a counting unit. So we're not going to worry about sig figs on this problem because otherwise we would end up probably shorting people or paying them too much. Okay. They're not measuring, they're not using a device to measure this. They would have counted the money out. So remember, counting units aren't subjected to the sig fig rules. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we are starting with 2 pounds. And I'm going to take pounds. Can you follow the, this is the abbreviation for pounds. I really do not know why it's LBS, but it is. And another abbreviation is like the pound sign. You'll sometimes see that. That's another abbreviation for it. Okay, so we're taking pounds and we're going to go pounds into what? This is currency. So they had the chart up there for currency, right?
No, we have the information above that.
Yeah, that's not on there.
It says 1 pence equals 4 farthings, 1 pound equals 20 shillings, and 1 shilling equals 12 pence.
Oh, right there it is. Oh, Lord mercy. Okay, so pounds I'm going to take into what?
We're gonna put pounds into 20 shillings.
Okay, into
Or
shillings.
farthings.
And then I'm going to take shillings into
Pence.
pence and pence into
Farthings.
farthings, which is what we're going for. That's our, I think I'll do that. So that takes us into farthings. Good?
Yes.
You should see the trouble I get myself into over the years. All right, so I'm starting out with 2 pounds. All right, I want to get rid of pounds. Where do they go?
They go on the bottom.
So they're going to go into the bottom. And I'm taking pounds into shillings. And now I go back and I fill in my numbers. Because otherwise, I end up putting, for some reason, the numbers on the wrong line about half the time. Especially with these things that I'm not as comfortable with. You know, some of the things I got memorized in my head. This I don't. All right, so then I'm going to get rid of my shillings. Are they going to go on the top or the bottom? Bottom. They go on the opposite side. Okay, and we said that we're taking shillings into pence. And then I go back and I grab my values for that. So I say 12 pence in 1 shilling. This is like their old nickels and dimes and that sort of thing. Okay. And a pence, I think, was like a penny. If I'm not mistaken. All right. Then I'm getting rid of pence. So top or bottom?
Oh, bottom.
Bottom. Yep. Opposite side. And I'm going to take my pence into farthings. And I fill in that. This is 4 and 1. Okay. So multiply across the top. Divide by the bottom. Check that my units have canceled out. I'm left with farthings. And I should end up with how many farthings?
1,920.
Yep, 1,920 farthings. All right. Any issues with that one? Make sense? Okay. All right. Let's do one more like this, and then we are doing it on 2. We're going to attack 2 different fronts. All right. We have 3.9 days, and we want to go into seconds. So I'm going to start with days, and these I think are just things that you know, right? So days will go into what?
Hours.
Yep, we know how many hours there are in a day, so we can do that. And then do you know how many seconds there are in an hour?
You know how many minutes there are.
Okay, we can do minutes then.
And then we know how many seconds are.
And then we can do seconds. All right. So see if you can set that up. See if we've got our path drawn. See if you can get that guy set up and see if you can figure out the answer to that. There's a little light on phones in here compared to people. I did my attendance for this hour. I'm gonna get in trouble. Izzy's missing somebody next to her. Risa, she's already marked. Looks like yes. All right, you ready? You ready? Okay. So I would have put days on the bottom, and I would have taken days into hours, then hours into minutes, and then minutes into seconds. Okay? And I go back now, after I got my path in, I go back and I'm going to fill in my numbers. I know in one day I have 24 hours. In 1 hour, I have 60 minutes. And in 1 minute, I have 60 seconds. Now, if you knew how many seconds there were in an hour, you could skip this, just combine them. So you could have done 1 hour equals 3,600 seconds. So if you wanted to save yourself a step because you knew that, or you could kind of do it in your brain, that works. Now, my calculator kicks back to me. 3,36960, and that's going to be seconds. And if I was keeping with true form for sig figs, I would write down 2 sig figs, and that would be my 2 sig figs. All right. Now, that's the last single step problem. Now we're going to have to do a two-stepper. Ready for a two-stepper? All right. This one is 65 miles per. The word per means to divide. Okay? So that means 65 miles per 1 hour. Good? That makes sense. Okay. So I am going to change my miles into kilometers. I'll put my numbers in there. And it's 1.61 and 1. And at this point, if I were to do my math, what would my answer be in? What units?
Kilometers per hour.
Per hour. Okay. So right now, if I just stopped here, I'd be at kilometers per hour. They want me to keep going though. Okay. I've taken care of the distance. I've taken care of what they want my distance in. Now what front do I need to attack?
The time.
Time. Okay. So I'm going to do this. I want to get rid of hours. Where am I going to put the unit hours? On top or bottom? Top. It goes on the opposite side. To get rid of it, it's going on the opposite side. And we want to go into minutes, and we know how many minutes there are in 1 hour. So now my hours will end up canceling out. So see if you can get that to calculate out to the right value. What'd you get?
104.65.
Did you divide by the bottom part?
When I divided, it was 1.7.
Yep. So after you divide it, you should end up with 1.7 as your answer. Is that what you got? Okay. All right. So that would be 1.7. What are my units? What's left over for units? Kilometers
Minute.
per minute. So km per minute are what my units are. See how you can attack two different things in the same problem? We attack distance and then we attack time. Could I have attacked time first and then done distance?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which one you start with as long as you get both of them in the end. Right.
I'm confused on how you determine how many sig figs you use.
So I have 2 sig figs in my measured amount. So I should end up with 2 sig figs in my answer.
Got it.
So always go back after you're done, and when you want to know how to round, go back to your what they had measured and just see how many sig figs there are. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay. I do. So we're doing milliliters in gallons of milk. And you had conversion factors at the beginning. Okay. You had gallons. What am I going to take my gallons into? I draw my path here. Quarts, right? And then I'm going to take my quarts into,
Pints.
huh?
Maybe? 1 second.
Is there a conversion factor that goes between quarts and milliliters?
It goes to liters.
Okay.
And then
So we can go quarts to liters, and then we can go liters into
milliliters.
milliliters. Okay. So we have our path drawn here. Now we're going to go back and do our setup. I've got 2.5 gallons. I want to get rid of gallons, so they're going to go on the opposite side. And we said that we're going to take those into quarts. And for my conversion chart, I have 4 quarts in 1 gallon. See, it's a quarter of a gallon. That's what a quart is. Quarter of a gallon. And then I'm going to take my quarts into liters. And then I've got to take my liters into milliliters. Did they give you that in the chart?
Yes.
They did? Okay. If they didn't, you would use your King Henry doesn't usually use chocolate or drink chocolate milk to figure it out. Because you should be able to go 1 liter and then convert that into milliliters. Okay. So 1 and 1,000 milliliters. Okay. So calculate that out. How many sig figs should be in your answer? 2. Because that was in your measured amount. We had 2 in our measured amount. So we should have 2 in our answer. So what did you get for your answer here?
94 over 1. Nope. 9,400.
Oh, okay.
That's
Better. Do I put a decimal at the end here? No, because that would give me 4 sig figs, and I only want 2. All right. With your seat buddy, do the next 2 we do problems, and then come up and check your work up here. And then you got some homework. And that's due on Monday.